Hi everyone, it's Jennifer from Auburn Yoga and Pilates. Tonight we are going to do some gentle yoga with backbends, so I hope you'll join us. If you have blocks, you can set them up in this configuration to start. I've got the first block on the medium height and this one on the highest height. If you're a tighter, shorter body, you can bring them each down a level. If you don't have any blocks or anything that you can use as a real substitute for blocks, then you could always take a towel or a blanket and you could create a roll and use the roll in lieu of this block here, and maybe some pillows in lieu of the other block. But we'll get started. So you want to come down and place your shoulder blades right on that block. The back of your skull goes onto the other block. Your palms turn upward facing to help facilitate the opening of the chest. And then just bring your attention into your breath. Hopefully, because the heads of your shoulders are peeling back toward the floor and your palms are upward facing, you feel a little less restricted in your breath. Hopefully, both your chest and your belly are rising on your inhale and falling on your exhale. As you continue to take these full deep breaths, hopefully you will feel your front body relax and open more and more. And then bending your legs and planting your feet. You decide whether it makes more sense to lift straight up off of the block or to roll off of the side of the block and come into a seated position. You can always sit on a folded blanket or a pillow to elevate your hips if you find that it's challenging to lengthen your spine. From here, go through a few circles of the spine, trying to wake up those energy centers in your back. And switching direction. Holding it in the center and taking that right arm, reaching it up nice and long, bringing that arm up by your ear, trying to get a stretch through your side body. Dropping it down, switching sides. Lift, nice and long. And coming back down and bringing yourself into an all fours position. You want to line up your wrists so that they're parallel to the short end of the mat. And then you want to allow your pelvis to spill toward the floor. As you do so, try to recreate the same sensation that you had in the supported back bend, in that you're pressing your shoulder blades forward towards your front body. And then switching the pose and coming into a cat pose, really exaggerating by pressing all of your knuckles down into your mat. And moving into cat and cow with your breath. And then finding a neutral spine, walking your hands forward, lengthening your spine, keeping your hips over your knees. Walking your hands back in, bringing your big toe mounds together and letting your hips fall back towards your heels for child's pose. And then inhaling, coming into a modified plank pose, engaging your abdominals and your pelvic floor. Exhale, coming back. Inhale, coming forward. So when you come back, you do not have to go all the way back. You can, but it's not required. And then holding it back in child's pose. Shifting forward, bringing your wrists slightly ahead of your shoulders, curling your toes under, lifting your knees and hips, coming into downward dog. And dropping it down. Keeping those wrists slightly ahead of the shoulders, coming forward into what seems like it would be a modified plank, but we're going to allow our hips to drop toward the floor. And then press back, maybe a little, maybe a lot, and then coming back to that variation of cobra pose. You don't want to feel like you're compressing your low back at all, so you may not fully drop those hips to the floor. Holding it back. And then walking those hands in, curling those toes under, and then coming up and sitting back on those heels. So for many people, this is not the most comfortable pose because we tend to keep our feet in the same position most of the time. So usually people are not used to this toe stretch. If it becomes too uncomfortable, of course, please get out of it. And then taking those hands forward. This time, you're going to take those hips and make a circular motion. So it doesn't matter which way you circle first. You do, however, want to try to hit each side in addition to the front and the back. Next time around, switch direction. and then dropping it back, taking it forward, and slowly dropping down. Taking those elbows so that they're just under the shoulders, and then root down through the fingers in a Sphinx pose. Try to make your thighs parallel to each other. Now really think about energizing your right leg. Press through that big toe mound. Lead with your inner thigh. And lift that right leg up off the floor, trying to keep it as straight as possible. Making sure that you don't collapse in your Sphinx, keeping the integrity of that shoulder girdle. Drop that leg down, try the same thing on the other side. Again, leading with that inner thigh. Dropping that leg down and stacking those forearms, resting on them. Now, thighs stay parallel to each other. Let both legs lift. Dropping it down, taking those hands beside your lowest ribs. Pin the elbows back behind the shoulder. Engage the upper back and try to get the same openness that you had in your chest when we first started off on the blocks. Lifting into a small cobra pose. You want to be able to maintain the cobra without using your arms as a crutch. Coming down, resting your head to the right. Take your hands back beside those ribs. Same thing, lifting up. A cobra pose that you could maintain without resting your hands on the floor. Dropping down and resting your head to the left. Taking those hands back beside those side ribs. This time, activate your legs with the same enthusiasm that you did when you lifted them both off the floor. But instead of lifting them up off the floor, we're going to keep our feet and hands in contact with the floor. Hover our legs and come into up dog. You want your shoulders right over your wrists. And then flip those feet. Press back to down dog. Drop those knees down to the floor. You can use your blocks or not. Step that right foot forward. Coming into a knee down lunge. Keep your front knee over your front ankle. Extend that hip flexor on the back leg side. And then walk your hands up and your shoulders back. Reaching those arms up, coming into a little bit of a back bend here. Opening up that hip flexor. Really inhaling those arms. Nice and long. Sweep those arms down. And again, you can use your blocks if you'd like. Bring your hips back so that they're over the back knee. And then really flex that front foot. Bringing your pinky toe in the direction of your belly button. So that you want your big toe and your pinky toe to be even. Shifting forward and then sliding that front leg back. Taking that back leg forward. So same thing, front knee over the front ankle. Extending at the hip flexor for the back leg. And then lifting your torso, reaching those arms. Feel free to draw the shoulders and wrists back slightly if you're comfortable doing so. Exhale, sweep those arms down and bring those hips back over that back knee. Pull those toes back and fold over that leg until you feel a stretch behind the leg. And then bending that front leg, this time doing it a little differently. We're going to curl that back toe under, lift that back knee, step that back foot forward. Coming into a forward fold, resting your hands on your blocks or on the floor. Inhaling, heart forward, head forward. Exhaling, fold forward. Inhale, sweep those arms up. Ground down toward the feet, and drop those arms down by your side. And again, inhale those arms up, and reach those arms up to the ceiling. Exhaling those arms down. Inhale, reaching those arms up and allowing your shoulders Bend your wrists to drop back for a little bit of a back bend. Coming up, dropping those arms down. One more time, inhaling those arms up. Coming back into that same back bend. If you'd like, you can step toward a wall and rest your hands on the wall. And coming up, dropping those arms down. Inhale, sweeping those arms up. Exhale, coming down into a forward fold. Inhaling, heart forward, head forward. Exhaling, fold forward. Stepping one leg back and stepping the other leg back. Coming back into a child's pose. Coming forward into a modified plank and slowly lowering down to the floor. Coming up into Sphinx. Making sure that those thigh bones stay parallel to each other. Take your right heel in towards your gluteal. It may be tempting for that knee to pop out to the side. Try not to let it. And then take that right hand and you want to grab the inside of the foot. That's why I didn't turn around in this one. I wanted you to be able to see clearly how my arm, my right arm, went into external rotation to grab hold of the inside of that foot. Now, use your foot to press back on the hand to press in on the foot. Make sure you're not collapsing through that left shoulder. Release, and rest down in crocodile again. Coming back up into Sphinx. So again, make sure that the thigh bones stay parallel to each other. Sometimes when we stay in this pose a little longer than we are going to tonight, I have people put a belt around their thighs to ensure that the thighs stay parallel to each other. So just imagine for tonight that the belt is there. Now, taking that heel in toward the glute. And then again, externally rotating at your shoulder, grabbing the inside of your foot. So getting a back bend. And really enjoying the stretch through the shoulder, the chest, and maybe even down into the bicep. Maybe feeling a little bit of a quadricep stretch in that left leg. Again, it all depends on where you hold your tightness. Release and coming down. Taking those hands by those side ribs, coming up, all fours position. So, recently did this in a yin and restorative class, and it seemed to work out okay with this camera angle. So we're going to come into a pigeon pose. So you're going to come into an all fours position. From here, you're going to take your right knee up to your right wrist. So that your knee is basically almost under your shoulder. Not quite, but it's close. Now, this shin is at a diagonal, and for some people, the shin will actually be able to come forward so that it's more parallel to the front of the room. Then, from there, you're going to curl those back toes under, just like we did in that toe stretch earlier, except all we're going to do here is shake the hips toward the floor. And then if you don't rest the back of your hip on the floor, you want to put something underneath it to help protect the knee. It basically gives it support. Even though it's under the hip, it's because the hip's not just hanging, that takes a little bit of pressure off of that knee. Now you want to keep those hips straight. Now, oftentimes we go down into forearms or arms extended for a sleeping pigeon. Feel free to choose that option. But because we've been focused on back bends, you may be able to walk those hands back. So you can walk those hands back toward the hips, opening the chest, engaging the upper back, or you can reach up. Slightly more fancy. You can reach back, grab the inside of the foot, just like we did when we were in Sphinx a little bit earlier. And release. And placing those wrists beneath your shoulders. Switch sides, but before you do so, you may want to shake those hips from side to side. bringing that knee up towards your wrist. That shin is at least at a diagonal, or maybe parallel to the short end of your mat. Once you're here, you can likely lower your hips a little. By lifting that knee, you're getting rid of that resistance, shaking those hips down. And then again, if your hip does not rest directly on the floor, place a blanket underneath it. And then it may be that it's a little too much to go into a regular variation of pigeon again. But it's entirely up to you. You choose whatever variation suits you tonight. And then once again, bringing your wrists under your shoulders. And taking that leg back and shaking out those hips. And then grabbing hold of those blocks and coming into a supine position. This time we're going to do another variation of that back bend that we did at the beginning. Now if you're all back bended out, by all means, please choose some other option. But if you're able to, you're going to align this block so that it follows the track of your spine, and the blocks are the same height. So you can modify it by raising this block, by turning this block this way instead, or you can make it more challenging only if you feel comfortable by putting the block that supports your head a little bit lower. So this here is a deeper back bend. So it may or may not be perfectly comfortable for you. Now, some people like to just keep their arms by their sides. Again, a more advanced option is to cross your arms at your forearms and let your arms hang back just over your head. You should feel an opening in the front body. Along with that spinal extension in that back bend. As always, only doing what's comfortable. And bringing your arms back down by your side if they're not already there. And then bending your knees, planting your feet. And again, lifting up off the block or rolling off the block. And now, grabbing whatever you need for final relaxation. So you can choose to do some sort of restorative pose that we didn't do that's really calling out to you. Or you can opt for a traditional final relaxation. Sometimes people like to put a prop under their feet or knees. Or they like to put something with a slight weight to it on top of their hips or thighs. And that's to have the effect of being more grounded. Many of you have probably seen that they actually have grounding blankets now, and all they are weighted blankets. But whatever place you choose, the important part of it is to find a place where you're completely comfortable. And acknowledging sometimes that you aren't completely comfortable is a good thing. Because that means that you're observant enough to know that you need to make changes. Sometimes staying in a place of discomfort will make it become more comfortable over time. But sometimes a place of discomfort just needs to be dealt with and changed. So sort of a little metaphor for yoga and for life there. Once you find the comfortable place, completely relax into it. and then bending your knees, planting your feet, rolling to one side, oops, and coming up into a seated position. You can sit on a pillow or a blanket, or you can sit directly on the floor. Inhale, sweep those arms up. Exhale, drop them to your heart center. Try it again, big inhale. Exhale, let it go. One more big inhale. Exhale. The light within me salutes the light within you. Namaste. Thanks for joining me. Have a great evening or day, depending on if you're watching this live or on replay. And again, please comment, and remember that all these videos are saved on our YouTube channel. So you can go there and subscribe and get notified when new ones are uploaded. Take care.